My Startup TV. 7th August is National Handloom Day. Handloom sector represents India's glorious culture and heritage. It's also an important source of livelihood in the country. Handloom plays a vital role in empowering women. Over 70% of viewers are women. On the occasion of National Handloom Day, we are hosting eminent panelists from the world of handloom. My guests this evening are Shravan Savli ji, namaskar. He
Namaste,
comes
sir.
from,
Namaste.
he's a weaver of Patan Patola, and his family has been into this art form for over about 900 years now. My second guest is Avishpata Thakur, who's a handloom evangelist and founder of Bunavat. And then Ruchi Jha, who's co-founder of iMithila, Handicraft and Handlooms. Welcome to the show, guest.
Thank you so much, Medhi.
Thank you, sir. Nice.
Thank you, Sunil ji.
Let's start with the जिनके कंधों पर वीव और हैंडलूम चलता है, श्रावण जी बताइए, टेल अस अबाउट पटन पटोला. ये किस तरह का आर्ट फॉर्म है और आपका इसके साथ में किस तरह का एसोसिएशन रहा है, आपका या आपका फैमिली का?
एक्चुअली देखिए, पाटन पटोला साड़ी जो है वो पाटन में बेसिकली वीव हो रही है पिछले 900 ईयर्स से, मतलब 11th सेंचुरी के पीरियड से. 11th सेंचुरी का जो पीरियड था तो वो पाटन का गोल्डन टाइम था. पाटन वाज बेसिकली कैपिटल ऑफ गुजरात इन दोस डेज एंड सोलंकी डायनेस्टी वाज रूलिंग ओवर हियर. सो इन दोस डेज बिफोर 11th century, this particular patola sari, the art form was found in Maharashtra. There is a village called Jalna, where our ancestors had started this weaving technique. So in the time of 11th century, Patan Patola sari, of course, it is a high-end product, and mostly in those days, the kings were using this Patola sari as a holy fabric. So normally, instead of, I will say, more than fashion, Patola sari was considered as a holy fabric. So normally in those days, people were using as a holy fabric to worship the gods, sometimes used to in pujas and everything. So King Kumarpal had migrated over 700 Salve families from Maharashtra Jalna to Patan town. So since from 11th century, Patola sari had started to weave in Patan town. Basically, Patan Patola sari, it is not printed sari. Normally what happens in different parts of the world, different parts of the states, like Banarasi saris, Hyderabadi saris, Pochampalli, Sambalpuri. So in this particular type of weaving, normally they weave fabric only and they make printing on it. Either they make Dabi Jakar weave. I mean, they have a paddle loom. So from that they are embossing the pattern and everything. It is a little easier way for weaving. But while in Patan Patola, the main art is that we have to not print the sari. But before weaving the sari, kinds of threads, I don't know, you can see there are some different colors with calculation on different parts of the threads. There is a yellow, white, black, red. So this every thread, there are number of threads. We have to first dye according to the pattern with calculation. And each thread is with particular calculation. So before weaving, you will find all the pattern what you are going to weave will be ready on the threads. First, we have to make the warp threads with the design. Same way, have to tie and dye on the weft thread, which is also perfectly measured and calculated. So at the time of weaving, it will get perfectly to match as per calculation of the colors. This is the specialty of Patola sari. And to make one sari, it takes 4 to 5 months with the help of 4 or 5 people. Also, Patola sari is widely famous because for its colors. The design and color will never fade from Patola sari because that all are the natural dyes in Patola sari. So that is also one of the main specialty, that a sari will live long up to 80 or 100 years. After 80, 100 years, clothes will destroy, but color and design will never ever die. That is the specialty. Another thing is that it is made with pure silk. because silk is considered as a holy fabric, and silk was the only option in those days when this sari was started to make. So from China, our ancestors were importing the raw silk to weave patola sari because there were a silk route from where Indian people were making business of spices, and against of spices, Chinese people were giving raw silk to Indian people. So from that time, this art is going on. Also, the important part is that in entire world, patola sari technique is quite different and complicated. There were many textile experts from different parts of the world like Japan, US, Britain. They have came over here, they have stayed in the family, they did bit research how to make computerize this particular weaving technique. But still today, nobody get the success. This is the specialty of patola sari. Even you won't believe, I have not seen that German person. There was a German anthropologist who came before independence. In 1945, he joined our family. He was living in the family in those days. And he had written 2 volumes about patola sari. I mean, all entire trade secrets of the technique had been written down on that particular book. Because at the time of Second World War, patola sari was exporting to the Indonesia, and Indonesian people were the major buyers of patola sari. But due to World War, the business was stopped out, finished out. So our forefathers, mean my grandfather, they decided to give all this entire data of weaving technique to write down in the book. So he spent 34 years to write down that particular patola volume. So after that, even today, nobody is still able to make this particular weaving. This is the specialty of patola sari.
Wow,
Because
Swami, it is amazing what you're telling us. It's like there is mathematics, there is science. It's not just sari. Abhishek, what do you think? It's not just sari. There is
No,
science in
absolutely
it. There is
not.
maths in it. Everything.
Yesterday we were doing this live session on IGTV for a collection launch that we did for Handloom Day, and this is exactly what I had mentioned there. That handloom is, we always talk about this as an art form, but there's so much of science involved in it in terms of the mathematical calculations, the precision, the patience that's required, the angle, everything that goes into it. The coordination of the hand and the feet, the movement, there's a rhythm to all of it combined, and it's very, very scientific in nature, and at the same time, so it's a very beautiful amalgamation of art and science together, and I think that's what makes handloom so much more covetable
yes,
and unique, because if it was only science, then our computers would be able to replicate it. If it was
yes,
only art, then probably it wouldn't have been also I think the technical know-how, people wouldn't really talk about trade secrets and all of it then. But I think it's because it's a combination, and that is why striking the right balance between the two becomes imperative in this field, and that's exactly what makes handloom unique.
Ruchi,
yes,
you are the front face or the interface between viewers like Savan and the consumer or the buyer. Are you able to take these stories and make them understand what goes into making these saris, upholding these traditions, cultures? This is not just a sari. There is science in it. There is mathematics in it. How do you educate your consumer?
It not just being about an art form, there is a science involved to it. So in Madhubani also, what happens is every painting has a story behind it. Everything goes with a logic, so nothing is abstract in that. So you see a painting with Sita Swayamvar, which tells you the story about the wedding of Sita ji and Ram ji. Sita ji was from this region, Mithila, and that was the first time this art form found its mention ever. So before that it could have been practiced, but this was the first time when this art form had been mentioned in history. So historically it has a lot of value to it, And the way you said that this is not just about saris or anything, there goes a thinking of the designer on the saris specifically we talk about, and then the artisan puts his or her heart and soul into the product. So in Madhubani, we traditionally we used to have saris, fabrics, and paintings basically. And after the earthquake happened in Bihar, they were transferred onto papers as well, so that the economy could be revived. And now further, what we did was, since every time anybody would not be willing to buy a painting or a sari specifically, we tried innovating products, and conserve this art form in its true form, so that the art can also be conserved. And on contemporary product, if you're putting this art form, then the sellability and the knowledge and the interest of the buyer increases. So that is one. Second thing, just the way Savanji was highlighting, that they need to tell people about Patola saris, what goes behind, and they need to educate the customers. It's very unfortunate for us that a lot of people from my generation or the next generations, I would say, they don't even know what kind of rich culture and heritage we belong to. So it becomes our responsibility to conserve the art form. Even Abhipsha, who has been doing a lot of things with the clusters across the country. I mean, she has done so much in preserving the weaves in their original forms and providing
Too
so much of
generous,
employment.
Ruchi, on that. But I've been following Imithala for a long time
Yeah.
now, and I think it's beautiful to be able to come up with the contemporary products and make it more relevant. I think all of us who are working in this space, it becomes important for us to make it relevant in the context of the urban world today. Because not everybody may be a sari wearer, not everybody may be into ethnic wear. I remember seeing this teapot with the Madhubani painting, one of your products, and I was just blown. Like, it's very innovative, and I think finding these little ways of promoting art and making art and craft and textile a part of our daily lives. I think that is what is the responsibility of all of us who are in this space. Because
So,
if the consumer is not coming to us, I think we go to the
Exactly.
consumer
Correct.
with different products.
So
Correct.
my question to both Avisha and Ruchi is, how do you make it affordable for, affordable so that it is available or, used by pretty much everyone?
Ruchi, you go first, maybe, and then maybe I'll talk about.
Sure. So at Mithila, generally what I had observed earlier was people used to think that any product which is a handicraft or handmade, it's going to be very expensive and very premium. So people won't be able to afford it. So we needed to break this myth and come out of it. So at Mithila, what we did was we innovated the products, and our product range starts from anything from 300 rupees and it goes up to 50,000 or a lakh also. So we tried bringing down the cost of the product as well as our cost, so that we could pass on the benefit to the customers as well. As rightly Avipsha has pointed out, that the consumer needs to see the value in the product which he or she is buying. The consumer does not want to buy just a product for showpiece. As a showpiece, he just wants to see a value into the money which he is investing in the art form. So that is what we had in mind, and we tried to build products which were not very expensive, which could be afforded by even a student, or if somebody wants to gift, suppose a bag to his or her mother, he or she should be able to afford at least 500 to 1,000 rupees. And in that 500 to 1,000 rupees, you could also own a masterpiece, which is not just a product, but then a handicraft which is of use to you. So we worked around a lot of our costs, the weavers, the weaves, the products, and we established small scale factories with our third party vendors, and we trained them how to make world class product for our artisans to paint the product. So that is how we also help them and try to keep our costs low, so that we could also pass on the benefits to others as well.
So Ruchi, one quick question before I go to Avisha. uh, do the consumer, when they come to you or they buy through you, do they appreciate or even have an understanding of what goes into making these saris?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Most of the times, no. So earlier when we had started, most of our customers were from East India or South India, where you know your culture and people are more, they want to hold their culture closer to the heart. So it's difficult for them to get out of their mindset and get out of their culture. So those people used to understand, but later we had to invest a lot of money in marketing as well, to make them understand what is the story behind this art form, what is the art form exactly, which is again very unfortunate, I would say, for a country like ours. Second thing I would say, a lot of people used to come to us and they used to say, okay, printed products we are getting at this price, why your product is so expensive? Because they don't have an understanding, and counterfeiting is again a big issue for an industry like handicrafts and handlooms. So we had to tell them, okay, my artisan has paid so much of money and so much of time she or he has invested in that. So we had to spend a lot of, still we have to invest a lot of time and money in educating the customer what the art form is all about. And I would mention one more thing. I think the government and our honorable prime minister, he is putting a lot of emphasis on handicrafts and handloom, and especially I would say I have noticed that Madhubani paintings he has put a lot of emphasis on. So somehow people have started taking an interest in that, but still marketing has to be done.
Avisha,
Yes.
one of the things that we understand is lack of awareness
Yeah.
among Indians by and large about the art forms and about handloom itself. Do you think the education should start much earlier, let's say at the school level, where teaching about these art forms, including handloom, should be I mean, I heard about Patan Patola very recently, and that it survived 900 years.
No, I think it's a very important aspect that you brought forth, because this is something, this entire orientation towards craft forms and textile, different types of weaves. If it is done at a much younger age, I think there is more appreciation. If even if you're not taking to the craft or the weave, or draping a sari, or wearing a product, or buying a product, at least you have that understanding that there is so much more effort, and understanding that it is different from a product that is made by machine. Understanding and appreciating the imperfections of something being handmade. I think that is the beauty of being in this space. So I think it's very important that such education starts at a very young age. People are given such kind of, people go for different visits to different museums, and they go to science museums, they go to other places, but nobody's ever gone to a textile museum, if you ask me. I mean, it's not part of your pedagogy or part of your curriculum in any of your any of the school boards or state boards that you can look at. So I think if you slowly inculcate this, and there are more conversations around this happening today. I think it's an interesting time, because there's a lot of buzzword around sustainability today, and we see a lot of youngsters taking on a lot of green drives and green movements, and slowly, obviously, incorporating the textile component in it also makes a lot of sense. So it's a very interesting and a good time to maybe start this. Also, one thing, I just wanted to add to what Ruchi said in terms of the price competitiveness. Just quickly trying to say that between a weaver and an end consumer, the number of change of hands is actually a lot. Like, there is a Mahajan, from an individual weaver, there's a master weaver, there could be a Mahajan, there could be a wholesaler, a distributor, a retailer, a reseller. There could be n number of people between that, because they're absolutely last mile and grassroots level weavers. So what we have done at Bunawat is basically try and cut out these people who are in the middle, and work with maybe individual weavers or master weavers, and just become like a bridge between them and the consumer, and that what makes the product more competitive. And as I speak to you, we've launched a collection. This is what we do every handloom day, where we pick out the simplest of weave. Like, Patan Patola is on the other extreme of the elaborate weaves, and there is something as simple as a Khesh sari or a Dhone Khali Tant from Bengal, which is, or a Bobili from Andhra Pradesh, which is the simplest that you can think of. And we've looked at the entire skill set spectrum, because you have to understand that every district, every region has its speciality. And so we're trying to talk about also the simplest of weaves and go up to the more intricate forms. So that way you're giving an option to somebody who's not ever tried handloom to at least make a first attempt, and try something. So, price points for sari starting at maybe, 800 rupees on our website. It's something that all of us would, anyway be able to afford if we ditch a fast fashion, t-shirt, which also comes at a maybe higher cost than 800 rupees. So I think it is a responsibility of people in the space for us to do more of storytelling. And this is something that I cannot emphasize enough, because it's been one of the key pillars at Bunawar, to talk about the people who weave. And today having Savanthi here itself is such a beautiful amalgamation of all of us together in this space, because Ruchi comes from a handicraft background with so much focus on a beautiful craft form. The Savanthi does this beautiful intricate weaving, and at Bunawar we kind of bring everything together for the consumer, and talk about all of this in terms of the weavers and artisans involved. So thank you for doing this. I think it just makes all of us happier to be here today.
Well, thank you very much. And Savanji, Avisha talked about museum. If बच्चे weave museum नहीं जाते, and you have a museum. You're sitting in a museum. Do you want to go around, show our viewers, the museum that you have?
Yeah, I will show you. There was no any more plan to make a museum in those days, but my uncle thought, if we will not make same as the ladies has discussed about the product. So normally what was happening in those days, this is just weaver, what is his weaving, or why it is costly and everything. So nowadays, after having museum, people has a value of the particular art form. When normally in textile museum, people are not visiting. But nowadays, our museum has got lots of admire from the people, and number of people are visiting here to see the original patola work. With this help of museum, we have got very good impression about the Indian handicraft. Here is some examples of the techniques. This is from raw silk. After spinning, so this entire processes have to follow. Actually, when people are come to see the artwork, so normally what happening, sometimes there is a unknown customer who is not aware with the handicraft. So he was just coming over here and telling us, making lots of discussions why this is costly and everything. So we are explaining them same way as nowadays on e-commerce website, you will get lots of questioning why this is available with the prints and this is costly. But what is the value of handmade? From this explanation, we are getting idea. So people are now getting aware with the handicraft. Here is some awards from the Indian government, and here is my late uncle who was my teacher. He was my first teacher, and he taught me the tie and dye process. Actually, in Patan Patola weaving technique, the most complicated part is tie and dye process. So he was the master of tie and dye, and he was the only person in the family who can draw the most fastest pattern in the family. So he taught me about this technique. So here are some our forefathers who brought this work up to here. And here are some appreciations from the US. This is from Britain. This is from Japan. So actually, when people comes to visit over here, so they will see this weaving loom. But double ikat is the most special weaving in world. After double ikat, the single ikat has started. In single ikat, when you will visit Rajkot, when you will visit Pochampally, or you will visit Orissa, whatever patterns they are making, it's actually influence of double ikat patola weaving, and pattern are influenced from this original weaving.
सवन जी एक बात बताइए, are you also training the next generation weavers in your family or from outside?
Actually, I am the most youngest weaver in the family right away. I am 39 running, but my brother Rahul, who was joining instead of me, but he has got some work, so he could not join the meeting. So he has got one son whose name is Vasishtha. He is right away 8 years old. And I am just blessed on the last 29th of July. I am blessed with the baby girl. So maybe now let's see what happened. She will join or not, but I am sure she will join here. And I will be very happy if she will join here. So we are trying to keep our next generation in this particular art form. So basically from beginning, we are giving training. Kind of a training mean when the Vasishtha is 8 years old, but since from when he was 6 months old, my uncles were lying down him on the bottom of the weaving loom. So when weaving loom was moving, he was also moving with the hands, and slowly he was getting idea what is going on. So from this time, even today, in school nowadays, he is not with going to the school, just online education. So after completing education, in the free time, Rahul is bringing his son over here to keep alive this artwork. As I mean, what we are working over here with the hard work, so he will get idea. My father, my uncle are working here, so I have to join here. So this is our idea to keep next generation over here.
Thank you, Savanji. Thank you very much. I mean, firstly, whenever we get time, definitely we would love to come there and do a
You are
feature
all of
on-
you are most welcome. And
We will do that. We will come and do a feature on the art form that you are preserving, your family is preserving. And last words to Ruchi and Pishra. As you rightly said, there is so much of passion, among these artisans. Because they are actually protecting India's culture, heritage. Last words to you both.
So I feel Indian handicraft and handloom industry, which you rightly said, is the second largest employer of our country, and majority of people employed over there are women. And those most of the weavers and artisans which we talk about are from the bottom of the pyramid. That's what I have seen. So if you see Indian handicraft and handloom industry is addressing a lot of critical issues of the country. You're talking about women employment, you're talking about inclusion, you are talking about preserving the employment of in the handloom and handicraft industry. So I think this specific industry needs to be looked at very carefully, and it has got a huge potential, right? Just the way Savanji was talking about this art, and you said that, okay, are you going to pass it on to the next generation? My point here would be, if somebody is getting so much of recognition for all the hard work he's doing, and if he is able to sustain it while making money out of it, I am pretty sure that his next generation would be more than happy to join it and take the tradition forward. So everything has to go hand in hand. We have to take care of this industry and freeze out the challenges and take away the issues currently this industry is facing. So I think it has tremendous potential, and people like us who are kind of an interface between the weavers and the consumers, they need to come forward, who understand the art as well, also understanding the back end of the business, how to make money out of that business and keep it going and survive through the all the tough times and whatever issues we are facing. I think the need of the hour is to have more people who can make it sustainable and survivable, making it profitable at the same time.
When we started this, one of the things that I noticed was Shravanji had his fingers colored. I probably must have just come out of the weave. That's the kind of passion they carry. Their hands are colored. How important it is to what role kind of people like you are playing in preserving this culture and ensuring that people, artisans like Shravanji continue to do their work.
Yeah, I think the handloom and handicraft industry is very unorganized in our country, and while we want to preserve it in its original handmade form, I think technology can be a very big enabler, not in the craft form or the weave for not mechanizing any of it, but in the enabling consumers to connect to the craft. So I think technology can be a great enabler, and somewhere we should ride on that, where we're looking at better supply chain management, better last mile logistics, better inventory management. I think these are very specific challenges of the sector today, and especially if you're working with a number of different artisans and weavers spread across the country, I think these are very important aspects. And people like us who are in the e-commerce space, I think it is on us to be able to do that, and at the same time digitally empower the younger generations to be able to also derive the benefit out of the technology boom and all of those advantages that we have today. So basically map that along with making the craft form, because this sector has a lot of potential. And I think I just want to leave it with one last thought, and especially for people like us entrepreneurs in this sector, I always say that for us, I think passion is a very overrated word in the entrepreneurial space. For me, it is the sense of purpose. And I think the sense of purpose should drive you to show up every day, because of the number of challenges, somewhere passion fizzles out along the way. But if you know why you are doing what you're doing and what kind of impact you're being able to bring to people's lives and to your life as well, I think you will not leave the journey midway. So I think I just want to leave with that, that we all have that strong sense of purpose, why we are in this sector, and make this a beautiful and enriching sharing learning experience for all of us every day.
Thank you, Avishka. Thank you, Ruchi. And thank you, Savanji, for joining us. And we hope to see you again, and keep inspiring each other. Ensure that the heritage of India is in your hands. So keep it safe. Thank you.